We are here to talk about the first episode drop of the Queer Ultimatum Season 2 on Netflix. My name is Carolyn Collado. I use they, them pronouns.
And my name is Layla McCullough. I also go by Amir, and I use they or he pronouns.
And welcome. Welcome to our podcast. So, we are going to talk about this first 7 drops of episodes that just came out. And a lot of what we'll be talking about is kind of like some bigger themes that we notice, like approaching it sociologically. And also, as we talked about, if you haven't already seen the first one where we talked about the trailer and like, why are we even collectively all watching this? And why are we personally, me and Layla, why are we watching and why are we recording and analyzing this? We're also going to try to be mindful as we're like rooting in terms of how we talk about these folks for a couple of reasons. One being that, you know, these are real people that we will be analyzing, and the critiques that happen of reality TV like do have real impact on people. And with the extra layer of this, and I saw that Mal Wright from the first season, like she like commented on this as well in terms of like, we are queer and trans community, like it is extra tight knit, like we are like maybe 1 to 2 degrees of separation from any of these people, so there's like a real impact, and like folks are trying to find a sense of security, like, and connection and community and love and romance and sex and pleasure, like in our communities. And so trying to hold the humanity, hold the like, and I know like Amir, you really noted this from the last one, like our previous episode, right? Like, what is the production doing, right? Like, what is production doing that's shaping this?
Yeah, Mal Ray also was listening to a podcast that she was on, and she mentioned this is like 30,000 hours of time that they're together,
Wow.
condensed into 10 50-minute episodes, which is just, there's so much we don't see.
Wow. I didn't know that. So, yeah, so there's a lot to consider. What are the narratives that are being constructed for the drama, for the impact? So, definitely want to hold folks with gentleness, and we'll be doing our best to do that as we do this recording. So, excited you're here. Yeah, so let's get into it. What's interesting with this season, like there are like a couple of things that like really loudly stood out to me. Well, one, I kind of want to talk up front about the filming location for this year. So notably, it was filmed in Florida. I think last year it was filmed in California, but
Yeah,
this year it was filmed in Florida. And
shocking.
I'm holding both things because,
Yeah,
you know, like with film and production, there is the like, they are paying the government, like the state government, wherever they're shooting in the United States, like to film there.
yes.
So they are like economically supporting Florida in filming in this location. There's also like, there's something also beautiful about filming in like a like seemingly like red state or conservative state like Florida to showcase the queer and trans community there. And a lot of the like a lot of the cast like seem to be from Florida. Like I'm pretty sure like it was Mel and Marie,
Mm-hmm.
it was AJ and Brittany, and I think
Mm-hmm.
Marita and Ashley as well. So I think that's pretty much
I
half the
think you're right.
cast, right? Like, so
Yeah.
they seem to be either from like, because I remember one talking about being from St. Pete's, and then 2 of the couples are from Orlando. So again, I think that's beautiful. I think that's really powerful. But what is it that Netflix is also, because it's like we could also show this representation outside of Florida itself, you know, like we could bring a like more diverse cast from conservative states outside of a state that is like actively like becoming a hostile environment for like, and being a hostile environment for queer and trans people. But again,
Very violent.
also showing the fact that there is queer and trans community there, even amidst all the violence. Yeah, and I wondered if like also there's an incentive to filming, because if you think about Los Angeles, you think about Florida.
Yeah.
It's a little like unclockable, like when this was filmed. Like it could have been
Yeah.
in the middle of the winter, it could have been in the fall. So I wondered about that, as well as like the time, like a timelessness about it, because it may have been wintertime, but like they knew that they were going to release it during
Very
Pride.
true.
So like it's a little unclockable in terms of like when is this happening. But yeah, that was something that, left a lot of conflicting feelings, but also made sense as like it was revealed that more of the cast was like from Florida, which I did appreciate that representation.
Yeah, a location, especially in reality TV, is always very interesting because in shows like The Bachelor, Bachelorette, and even like Love Island and things, they are coming from a lot of different places often. And so what I liked about like Love is Blind is they do it locationally, so that
Mm,
isn't even a thing really. They are all living in the same location, so they don't have to ask, oh, how are we going to do long distance? Are you going to move to me? Am I going to move to you?
right.
Which I enjoyed. I'm glad that half the cast was from that area, and also like what you were saying about it would be nice to see them really focus hyper locally on folks and bring in just more diverse, eclectic cast, because and it's tough too because there is only how many, 12 people, 10
Mm,
people, and so the diversity of the queer community is so vast. The combinations of how people pair up and the different gender expressions, cultures, it's all very expansive. And so putting that into a cast of 10, don't get me wrong, they could have done a lot better even with just like this small cast. And also it is interesting to think like, yeah, how would that look if there were more people, or yeah, how would it look even with that smaller group when there is such a diverse array of queer and trans folks out there.
I was thinking about that too. If they ever did like a DC season, like like they could like, oh my, like just the black queer DC scene, like it, it would. I mean, it would be dope in terms of more like, and that's something that we'll talk more about, like the black representation on this show.
Yeah,
But yeah, like that hyper locality would be really interesting. But then again, it also goes to like the community is super tight knit, so everybody probably already knows each other or knows each other. Like when you get that hyper local, it also
great
can get a
point.
little sticky. Um, but I don't know, like possibilities, and maybe
Yeah.
depending on different show formats, like that could work better in different contexts. But you started to talk a bit about like the cast and like diversity representation. What's alive for you around that as we've been watching these episodes?
Oh my gosh, my brain is racing. First, I mean, it's a light cast, a light skinned
Mm,
cast,
right.
and so even I feel, oh, got my little fidget toy.
I love it. I love it. I almost put my like la boo boo here. Like maybe I
Yes,
should have.
love that. As far as gender representation, it did. I mean, majority of the cast uses she her pronouns. Not that that is a
Hmm.
fully representative of how someone is presenting themselves. There
Right.
are two people that use she they pronouns, Kyle and Bridget. Also, I'm looking at this cheat sheet that Gata the Baddie, shout out to them. They put this together for us. I can't, it's a little blurry, but go check that out. Appreciate
I'll put a
you.
screenshot if Gata's
Nice.
up for me
Yeah,
to put it up there. I'll put it up there.
nice. Also, a really cool COVID safer event organizer. So, definitely in LA, definitely check them out. But yeah, it seemed like it definitely leaned femme in terms of representation. It did feel
Mm.
like there, my partner Alex commented that there was a mask shortage, which I thought was very silly. And yeah, I would like to see more pairings of like butch for butch, mask for
Right.
mask, like gender fluid for gender fluid, T for T. It would be nice to see a little more expansiveness in that realm. And it does make me wonder about the bubble that I'm in, because I do see so much of that. And I'm curious how representative this is of the like alphabet soup as a whole.
No, that is a question too, definitely, in terms of like, are there spaces that are more like trans centered, trans friendly? I mean, DC has one of the like highest like trans populations per capita in the country. And, like trans community or gender expansive community, yeah, it definitely looks different in different places. So, and race and how the two like come together. So yeah, that it definitely. And then again, like I've always wondered about representation of gender and gender expansiveness on like TV as well. Like I have always kind of felt like they do not want to show like mask folks who are not like
Mm,
cishet men like on TV very often, because it does like completely like screw with, mess with, like completely unearth like the possibility around like people. I was just watching like Card Captor Sakura before I like came on while I was having my lunch, and I was like, wow, I was like, when I was young, I was attracted to like all these people, and it's like the like soft men and all the like, like it was like truly expansive of like all of the archetypes of people that I'm into, and I'm just like, you know, and that was, well, no, Card Captor Sakura was always pretty queer, I'm not gonna lie. um but within like a cishet imagination in the 90s, and like I do think that there's like this restrictiveness in terms of that, and like thinking about like who are they trying to like serve, and what are the messages that are like trying to be conveyed, because like
totally.
this is a show that is trying to do like a cis hetero concept of, and compulsive monogamous concept of like marriage and ultimatums. And then we're going to have like two mask or gender expansive people like into each other and exploring each other. Like, what is that, like versus like maybe trying to appeal enough to like a cishet audience that may watch it because they're allies, or and there are internalized notions of homophobia. Like one of the things that I think it was Marie, like Marie was talking about Fletcher, which aged so poorly. But Marie says that she's into Fletcher in that moment because she's just gay enough. And
I
so
know.
like,
I was fascinated by that too.
yeah, so like what are like, like, and again, kind of like, you talked a bit about like the colorism, and I've like alluded to also talking about like the blackness in this, but like it seems like they are like casting a very wide net, and that wide net is centered around the perception of like white supremacy, and also like cis heteropatriarchal normativity also within it, because like, yeah, this is definitely not like representative of like the gender expansiveness of the folks that like you and I are in community with at all, or that you and I even embody, like, like,
Our
like,
personal selves.
yes, like
Yeah,
for real, right?
for real. Not a single they them to be found.
No, no, or like they
Yeah,
he, and like a, like
yeah.
no,
Trans femininity. That's
no,
not in the
no,
picture whatsoever.
no, no, not
Yeah.
at all. So like that is, you know, and then
T for T.
right,
Oh, that would be so fun.
right,
Masks
yeah.
couldn't handle it. I don't know. They would. They'd lose it for sure. We would love it though.
Like how, like I think about how many people watch like Mel in the first season and we're like, that was my queer awakening. Like it's just like, it is possibility making, and just
Yeah.
thinking about all of that. But yeah, when I think about like race on this show, like, and thinking about again like that wide umbrella. Like I just was sitting a lot because you talked about like the lightness, and then again, like with relation to like blackness, like ay, 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 ay. Because there does feel like there, and this is something that is like constant in Netflix shows, but also probably in like TV representation since the 2010s. But like
Mm,
there is this like centering of like an interracial dynamic. And like shout out to my friend Cindy Lee if you're listening to this
totally.
because we've talked about this. But like there always needs to be a white person in that fantasy of like an interracial dynamic. And so just thinking about like
Totally.
this is a cast that like does lean on like the lighter end, even for the people who are not like Anglo-Saxon white or Anglo
Agreed.
white, you know? Like and that is a tough dynamic and something that I really struggled with in terms of, again, two thoughts. One, thinking about how like conversations about how stratified like and segregated like the queer community and trans community like can be around racial sides. So it's like if we're doing something queer, we obviously need to make it palatable enough that the white queer is like, we'll talk about it, like they'll pick it up in their pop conversations, right? Or like
Right.
that like they'll feel comfortable enough or like centered enough in like their narratives to enjoy the show in order to like promote the show. And
Fully.
as we were talking about in the first episode, like our teaser trailer episode, like this is also like a globally watched show. Like it's not like people will be like, oh, you did that on national television. This is globally consumed. And I was talking to my friend in Haiti about watching the show. But like this is a globally consumed queer show. And we know that white supremacy is like a global construct because of colonization. So, like, there is that, like, in doing this, there is also that selling of like white is right and best globally, not even just in the United States. And I struggled with that, something that like and shout out to Tabile who like also loves reality television, but like we have talked a lot about South African reality TV, and like I
Mm,
enjoy watching that also as a respite because that will be usually predominant, although in Netflix they do bring in some white cast members, that will be typically an all black cast, which is what we see, or a mostly black
nice.
cast, and greater body diversity than we see in like American reality TV, which is cool.
That is.
And so when we talk about like blackness in this show,
Mm-hmm.
it was just like I watched probably episode, I think it was either 1 to 3 or 1 to 4 in the first go, and then I went to bed and I watched the second half of the episode drop. And I really struggled with and just was like furious and frustrated because ultimately like so we talked about how, and like to clarify, like there are like two unambiguously black cast members, Brittany and AJ, and they came in as a couple. And Mel has also talked about like being black as well, so like three black cast members in like, what is it, was it 10 or 12 people? But um
12.
it 12,
Yeah.
12. Okay, so like what is that, like a fourth? Math was never my strong suit, y'all. Social sciences and English only. um but I really really like, because they are casting predominantly white or light, right? Like when we're talking about the colorism of it all, like there was this pain that I felt, and I want to talk about the first season as well and blackness on the first season. On the first season, Mal, right, like was the only unambiguously black person on that cast. And it was like there was this painful dynamic also with like her and Yoli, where Yoli pursues Xander and like Mal is like, there are just these insecurities coming up because like I know that is your typical type. Like I know you
Yep.
typically go for white women.
Yep.
Um and the pain of that, and then like the interesting cultural dynamics of like Mal and Lexi getting together and talking about like um you know talking about race, talking about
Yeah.
culture, and like interracial dating from like dating like as with a black person
Yeah.
specifically. And then on this season, what was really tough and like probably also painful was watching Brittany, like a dark skinned black femme,
Oh
and then
my God.
AJ, like having the pick of the litter in terms of like three white people like pursuing them. And and Brittany not having like the choice of her own, like the person of her own choosing. She ends up with Marita, and like we
That
can
was
talk more about that.
infuriating.
Yes, and like I I sat with like ultimately because when we posted this, um, I there was somebody who was talking about like I'm not going to watch this because like I'm choosing my peace and such, and like
Yeah,
we had talked a lot in the first episode about like the ethics of all of this and like why we're doing it and like
for sure.
trying to find glimpses of pleasure. But when I watched that, I was like, I mean, for real though, like, is this even sustainable or pleasurable when it is so like harmful to black people to watch, like so unpleasurable? And there was some TikTok discourse even before the season that was coming out about like people who choose to not date white people only to watch this show where that is being centered. And so
Yeah.
very, very interesting and very painful. And I don't know that like, yeah, like realistically, how pleasurable is this for black folks to be watching? How pleasurable and supportive is it for the black cast that go on this show? So that was like really, really heavy for me. Although shout out to Brittany for cooking the oxtail. That made me laugh. And then AJ being like, not the
I
oxtail.
know. Oh my God. And then them going to Marita and Marita being like, I don't actually have any idea what oxtail is. I was like, this is so embarrassing.
It was hilarious. I
It
mean,
was very funny.
I it was hilarious, and the spicing of the chicken, like
Yes.
yeah, that was a funny moment.
Eh,
Yeah, how are you kind of like sitting with like racial dynamics or all of that, or kind of thinking about
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Definitely not that you need me as a light skinned person to affirm what you're saying, but just also resonating in my own way and was like witnessing that myself of just Brittany, the only dark skinned black person, getting the short end of the stick and also like playing peacekeeper and then
Mm,
like having to kind of give this like white woman romance
mm,
and just the pain of separating from AJ and not actually having anyone that she actually really liked. I
right.
it was tough to watch and I'm just resonating and or just appreciating and noting what you're saying that like is this actually pleasurable for black folks and it like would make complete sense to me if it wasn't cuz it's just ongoingly getting the short end of the stick and then also not being able to like date other black folks. Like who is there to choose from? And I like what you said about how these couples largely there was AJ and Brittany and
Hmm.
then I think everyone else who was a person of color was with a white person or a
We got to
very
talk
light
about
skinned
that too.
person. Yeah, you mentioned it. You were like, "Oh, yeah." So I think that was, uh, yeah, like you said, that's kind of what makes it palpable to the white queers, and I do think there's kind of what's the word when maybe a fetishizing
Mm,
element to it,
mm.
where it's like, oh, we see these white queers out here who are dating people of color like I want to do that, I want to learn, I want to be able to like be that white person.
Get that oxtail, get that
Yeah,
seasoning.
totally, totally. So those are some things that came up for me when you were talking about race. And then, of course, there's also Megan, who is a Lebanese person. and also lives in Michigan. I think I can't remember if we talked about that in the first one, but
We did, but do you want to talk more about that in this context? Yeah.
oh, just that Dearborn is the biggest diaspora in the so-called United States of Arab Muslims and
Mm,
particularly Lebanese folks. So a lot of my family lives there. I was raised around there, so it was interesting when Megan was talking about how no one is out and proud in the community, and I felt like personally attacked when they said that because I'm like, I'm out and proud, but
mm,
also I know what she was talking about, and it's tough when I do think I was personally more digestible to
mm,
my Arab family when I was just
mm,
a gay person. It was still uncomfortable. There was a lot of stress around it, but when I started to come out as non-binary or trans or take testosterone, all of these things just took it over the line. And it was a lot
mm,
harder for them to, still is, to like understand and accept that. So I was just very much resonating, feeling for Megan, feeling for her love for her family, because I feel that
mm,
too. And even despite all of this, all of the stuff that I feel like I've had to go through with them that has been very emotionally painful, I still love them. And I really was
mm,
feeling that like cultural bond with Megan of just
mm,
like really understanding that family is everything and that's how we were raised. So,
mm. Yeah. I mean, I texted you like we were finding our way watching this, and I texted you that like one of the things that I definitely wanted to talk about was the dynamic of the fact that the two, like there was like these two cast members, Pilar and Megan,
yeah.
who are both non-white with
Mm-hmm.
white partners who are giving them an ultimatum, and part of the fear
Yes.
is around coming out and family, or already having coming out but like a tense relationship with family because of queerness.
Yes.
And yeah, so resonating with what you're saying in terms of like Megan and like the love of family, the love of community. And it like and I Pilar posted a video as well yesterday, talking about like wishing that they had just been stronger and like come out sooner, and how like they're getting all this feedback that's like you should have just been out, like. And I like
Oh God. Just got
uh
chills. That's no.
it's just like my notes was like I hate colonial patriarchy because, like, like Pilar being like Nicaraguan, Filipino,
Yeah.
and like Megan being Lebanese, like it's just like I just like the grief. I always put it like there's the systems part, right? Like
Yeah.
these systems have made it that like these cultural norms are a thing. Like Resma Menachem has a quote that's like trauma decontextualized in a people looks like culture, right? So
Mm-hmm.
like there has been this imposition of this colonial patriarchy that is like, being queer is wrong, being trans is wrong. And like I hold the heat for the systems of the fact that like they impact our families like this. They impact
100%.
the dynamics that make it that it may not be safe to be ourselves, or that we may not be supported and loved for being ourselves in our cultural locations where there has been this like patriarchal colonial impact. So I just was holding that grief so heavily for these two. And then just really thinking about it, like again, like it's coming from their two white partners. And like with Pilar, like when she posted that video, like I also was just the pain of like either being abandoned by your family or like having a really negative reaction from your family for your queerness, transness, both, and like that lingers. Like it lingers, like even if like
It
later it's like,
does.
oh, like it's cool, like they're cool with it now, like that lingers. Or like Pilar's case, like she hasn't spoken to her family in 3 years at the time of the filming. I don't know how it is now, but like that lingers. And I was thinking and talking to friends too about like we need community, like community can also help facilitate like that being okay. And I wonder how much like Pilar and Megan like what is the supporting also around like them beyond their partners who are like come out already or like do it already, like what other voices are around them in terms of just like supporting them through like the challenges of that.
It's a
So
great
yeah,
question.
that came up for me.
In episode 7,
Mm,
Marie said something like family is a construct, family is what you make it, which I thought was sweet and also relevant to what we were just saying. And also, we're holding it all. It is very painful. There is a lot of
mhm,
grief. At the end of the day, it's in our bones. We're connected to it. It's ancestral. It runs in us, and it's. I know for me, I know there's like, different kinds of magic and things that can be done to kind of like separate you
mm,
energetically. I can't. Like I don't feel like it's something that is possible emotionally and just like
mm,
spiritually. Like I would rather be in some kind of awkward, maybe even slightly
mm,
tumultuous
mm.
relationship with my family. It depends on who it is. It's
Right. Right,
spectrum.
right. There's a spectrum and there's a spectrum of who gets proximity to you, right?
1000%. And so I would rather be in that than like actively. There was this dynamic with Megan and their partner, drawing a blank.
Dana.
Dana.
Or was it Haley? Dana,
No,
the original partner. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah.
Dana, the original partner, where Dana's like, just stand up to your family.
Yep.
And like, okay, but also I don't think it's that simple. And I just thought that was like a very bold request.
I 1,000,000% agree. And
Yeah.
I'm thinking about like the history of like the coming out movement. And shout out to my Yale US gay and lesbian history professor, George Chauncey. But like the how he framed it is that the history of coming out was always centering white people. Like it always centered white people because like black folks, communities of color, like before kind of like this big coming out movement, there was like this knowing in community. Like there always has been like, oh, that like Theo that like lives in the campo with some other dude, like, like there's always been this understanding. But like the coming out movement, and I remember like him showing like the Ellen DeGeneres Time magazine, like like the like yup I'm gay, like, and I think
Mm,
she was the first like major celebrity to like come out in contemporary times, because there's also long history of like trans women celebrities, like like again we've always been there like we've always been there, but this like contemporary understanding of coming out has always like centered like a white understanding. So it just like pains me to think that Pilar might be getting a lot of like white folks, quite frankly, or folks who are
yeah.
not holding this like cultural nuance, like inundating Pilar about this versus like really holding that. Like, yeah, it can be, because like we do come from these like collectivist and like deeply family oriented like cultures, and like there are things that are really beautiful about that have been lost under white supremacy, that like white culture like may or may not like white culture, if that's even a thing, but like whiteness doesn't
Yeah.
hold or recognize that, like maybe in the nuclear family maybe they can hold it, but like there's there's so much trauma and there's so much of like that entanglement with these colonial patriarchal expectations about belonging, and trying to
Mm,
find our belonging and find our love and find our nourishment within family, while also holding this long historical and continuous trauma of the colonial weapon that was that has been colonial patriarchy. So, or patriarchy
Yeah.
in our lineages. So, that was so tender to watch.
Very.
But I'm glad that we're on the same page of like holding what that all
Yeah,
is. 100%.
definitely. Speaking of tender,
Mm.
I also found in episode 2 when Mel was talking to Brittany about her chronic pain to be very
Mm.
tender
Mm.
and her disability. And I was really grateful that got a little bit of screen time. I wish
Mm.
it would have gotten more
Mm.
because so many queer folks struggle with disability and chronic pain, mental and physical. And I thought it was really sweet the way Brittany reacted. And I'm also grateful, like, for Mel's vulnerability in that. They never showed Mel talking to,
Marie
um,
about it.
I didn't see it. I don't recall seeing it.
And there was a conversation that was revealed that she had with Dana, that Mel had with Dana, that she hadn't had with Marie about her ability to carry a child and how her disability makes that not possible.
Oh,
So
right.
yeah, there was a lot, and it is an interesting like conversation about like disability
Mm-hmm.
and like maybe internalized ableism, but like like disability
Oh,
and how that
definitely.
impacts like our sense of like, can we find partnership, like can we like oh man, just the grief of her being like, I don't even know if like I can, like in sickness and in health and like
For
with
sure.
kids and like my like whatever my disabilities are, like, oh, it was so tender and so real. Something that I have definitely navigated with like since the concussion and dating and just being like, can I even date? Like it's so real.
The
And so
grief is,
impacting.
oh, sorry.
No, please, please.
Yeah, the grief is real on like both in so many ways because it's also, yeah, when you do really love someone, there is this like grief or stress of knowing that, oh, this person could be impacted by this disability in a way that brings them a lot of suffering and maybe even, death. And so I think at the end of the day, what I want I don't want that to be a deterrent for people
Mm,
to love and be loved because we all are going to die at some
mm,
point.
right.
We don't know how, we don't know when, and we all deserve to be taken care of and we all
Mm,
deserve to feel love. And there, for me personally, there is no, like, love is worth it
mm,
at the end of the day. Like, being
mm,
committed is worth it at the end of the day. Like, I wouldn't take any of my experiences like back just because like I was disabled or my partner was disabled. It's like, no, there was genuine love there and we
mm,
both wanted it. And so, yeah, I think what Mel was bringing up is really important about what it looks like to be in partnership with someone who is like chronically ill or disabled, and what you're saying about like, um, yeah, just like the grief of like not knowing how to be loved as well, like in that
mm,
space. And I just
mm.
like sending a lot of love to Mel and navigating that, and all of the disabled spoony baddies out there navigating this.
Absolutely. 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 And it is like like I'm glad we had that like representation and communication, and it would be great to see more. Like
Yeah.
something I'm thinking about, right? Because it's the last weekend of Pride Month. It is like, the anniversary celebration of Stonewall. It's Pride in New York, Pride in San Francisco. And, then next month, starting in July, is like Disability Pride Month, and something that's like a constant community,
Yes.
like conversation is how inaccessible the queer and trans community can be, and Pride Month can be, and so yeah, like may this open more understanding, may there be more understanding, because like disability is like it comes for us all, like, you know, like it like it can happen at any time, and there's so much incentivized to not center it. So I'm
Yeah.
glad that there is that discourse. So yeah, we are going to continue this conversation in a different segment where we will go deeper about the relationships that we're witnessing, as well as like a deeper episode breakdown. So you can catch that in the next segment. Anything as we close?
Just really appreciate you. Grateful to be playing and having fun, and also like being serious about all of this. And grateful to everyone who made it this far and is listening and who's going to continue listening. Appreciate
Yeah.
you.
Oh, thank you. And thank you, everybody who's been listening, and for just like the affirmation that this is really what you've wanted to hear with regards to this and the show, and how complicated it is and pleasurable it can be. But also, as we said, there are dynamics in the show that might make it not as pleasurable and not as sustainable to watch. So, we will get into all of that and more in the next segment. And subscribe if you haven't, give us a like. And we'll see you in the next one. So, at this point of recording, we are coming back after the second batch of episodes has been released. So, we have seen now the full season. So, that might change a bit of what we've noticed, how we're feeling. And so, yeah, no, I'm excited to get into it. There's definitely like different perspective from watching the whole thing. So, with that, I will turn it over to you, Layla, if you want to lead us in kind of
Yeah,
talking about the show.
sounds good. So we already covered some like big systemic themes, which we're definitely still going to be getting into as we go through kind of episode by episode. But we're going to start by just sharing some like initial big feelings that we had, and then we're going to go kind of episode by episode, and the structure of that may not be linear within each episode. We are both neurodivergent. It's hard to focus sometimes. We remember things, we don't know where they go. So we're going to be going episode by episode, but it might not be linear within each episode. And lastly, Carolyn and I are definitely learning how to kind of be commentators of big media and culture in this podcast format, in this format where we're watching a full series and taking notes and things like that. So definitely learning along the way, and just excited to be learning with y'all and with Carolyn as well.
Awesome, awesome.
Yeah. So starting with like just big feelings themes, it was really interesting to see how much my feelings changed, like from just knowing I was going to be watching to watching
Mm,
every single episode and seeing it through until the end, and also seeing the cast be on social media and comment
mm,
on some things that we might have not known, or um, yeah, like confirm things or deny things. And so yeah, I think I initially watching was just like very excited. It felt just new and fun. And then by the end, I will say, and we'll get more into it, the reunion wrecked my nervous system. Like,
mm,
I just felt like it was a lot. And
mm.
so we'll get more into that. But yeah, I think there's a lot to cover here in terms of how it relates to queer culture as a whole and how it impacts us as individuals as well.
Mm. Yeah, I think watching the whole thing through, and it's interesting because I had there was a watch party in the middle where I had seen episodes 1 through 7, and I watched like up to episode 4 in a watch party context, which was so interesting. Also seeing
Mm-hmm.
everybody's big reactions, and maybe I'll talk about some of that. But I mean, like I almost walked away from the whole thing kind of feeling like this was like a waste of time in some way. Like this was not very satisfying, I think. And I'm sure we'll get into it with like how things played out with like Megan and Dana and so much of that and so much of like the relationship dynamics, but like it really did feel deeply unsatisfying. And I did feel
For
like
sure.
I love seeing queers on TV. I love that like it was an opportunity even to like for us to like talk, for everybody who's been like commenting and sharing that they've been liking our teaser trailer review, and you know, to get together and like a watch party and get with community, which was so beautiful. And that was really always what this show was like. The highlight of the show coming back for me was the community element, more than anything else. But like it was really disappointing and a bummer in like a lot of ways, for me.
Completely agree. It left like a hole bit in my soul. I also watched the last three episodes, the second drop, in a watch party setting,
Mm.
and I'll definitely want to weave in some folks, some commentary that folks had. Yeah, especially because I was watching I Kissed a Boy at the
Mm.
same time, which is a spin-off, the gay spin-off of Love Island. It's the same producers. Love Island, as we know, is also can be incredibly problematic and leave holes in our souls. And I will say though, I Kissed a Boy and I Kissed a Girl, like there is a satisfaction that came with watching those and seeing kind of like the cast just develop together and like build friendships and also see people end up in like genuinely happy situations that felt authentic, and feeling that and watching that compared to watching this, it was very, there was a lot of contrast there for sure.
It's interesting too. I'm thinking about reality TV. Like the I Kissed a Girl, I Kissed a Boy are both like British reality TV,
Yeah.
and then it feels, because I was thinking about Love Island this season has been an absolute mess. Like the
Yeah.
season like could end now and people would feel relieved.
Yeah.
And it seems like in some ways there is like this reckoning happening in like American reality TV. Like we are the OGs, you know, like this is where the genre
Real
was
world.
born, you know. I mean,
Yeah.
for me, Survivor, I've been watching
All
reality TV.
right.
Survivor, Fear Factor, Big Brother, like
Wow, bringing it
I've been,
back.
yes, you know, on the tiny TV, like,
Yes.
but it seems like there is like a real reckoning about reality TV as it has been produced in the United States, and this being
Yeah.
one of the things.
Yeah, like we don't want to feel like shit watching this stuff. Like we don't want to feel like, I don't know, like it's completely unrelatable or yeah, kind of
Unethical.
unethical. Yeah, kind of going back to what we were saying in the first episode, having representation and seeing ourselves in a way that feels authentic and genuine and genuinely representative of our lives is very healing. And seeing like the way that American reality TV is produced and just seems to keep going this way, I'm like, I hope the reckoning is here, and I hope that we do see some genuine shifts because, you know, for example, Love is Blind completely lost me, the US, in season 8 because of the way they treated the cast and the way they treated us as a result of that. And I was done. And I don't know if I'll be able to watch Queer Ultimatum season 3 in the same way
I
after
feel that way
this.
too. I'm
Yeah.
like, is there even going to be one? Like, I just don't
Yeah.
even like. As we talked about in the teaser trailer, as we talked about kind of in the first segment of this, like this format is not inherently super queer. It is
Yeah.
not, you know, like it is like fitting queer people into this weird thing.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't know. Like, I don't, I
Yeah.
walked away being like, I honestly don't know that I want this show to come back. Like, this particular show.
Yes.
Like, which is like, but you know what? I mean, our purpose also in doing this was to talk about like this and to talk about this industry and to talk about this. And it's like,
Absolutely.
I want more for us.
Me
And
too.
there's more conversation as well about like, we talked a bit about like the treatment of Brittany in the
Yeah.
show and like Black folks in general, and like as beautiful as it was to see like their love and their love story and like them being together, beautiful, beautiful. Like I want Black queer centered media. Like I want like,
Yeah.
or Black queer media, like period, like Black
Yeah.
trans media, period. Like I like media, like by us, for us, like for real, like for like people of color as well, with all the storytelling that was also done around like coming out and cultural things that we've talked about. Like I just,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know that I want this show to come back after this
Yeah.
season, for real, for real.
For real. And also, for what it's worth, Love Island and I Kissed a Boy, I Kissed a Girl are really bad in how they treat Black folks as well. Like,
Yeah.
they're often like the first that are cut. They like, and this is something that Erica Hart, which is I Heart Erica on Instagram, talks a lot about, of how white folks really don't have to do much to be desirable on these shows. And that is shown through, yeah, definitely like the treatment of the Black folks and how they are often the first to go. And it's horrible to watch. Like, we don't want to watch that.
No,
Yeah.
no. But also how things played out. I don't know that
Yeah.
I want to watch this either.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So
Were
let's
there
get into it
other,
then.
I was going to ask if there were other big feelings. That sounds good.
Oh, yeah. Did you have any other big feelings before we get in?
um I'll say it now because in case I don't want to lose it.
Yeah.
Um Pilar had like, there was like a post that Pilar had about like wishing they had come out sooner and been stronger, because a lot of people are like, you just should have done this sooner. And
Mm,
I had a feel like, I commented and I was like, Pilar, like this is like familial abandonment is like so painful, and a bad reaction to coming out is so painful. And so when Pilar like in the last half is talking about not having like an adequate support system, like I just thought about that. Like I just really, yeah, I guess another, yeah, like queer and trans community is so like essential to our existence. It's also again like why we keep emphasizing too, as we're commentating, like holding everybody with gentleness, because we like the queer and trans community is the community of the folks that we are commenting on. But
yeah.
like it is so essential to our survival, to our being able to like be, and like, sitting with all of this pressure that Pilar had in response to like you coming out sooner, or Megan like finally kind of like broaching conversation with her family.
Totally.
Like we need support, like we need care to be able to do that. And like, okay. I like, so in at the time of recording this, I am grieving like the death of like a queer person in recovery who I knew who was Muslim. And like I just like it really like we need each other, like to hold each other through these really, really big things, whether it's coming out, whether it is everything that is happening collectively. So
Absolutely.
that was a big feeling that is really personal at like this moment in my life, but is also true, and why this media is important. But I don't know that I want this show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That reminds me too that people also like so much love and condolences and just, yeah, care to all of the parts of you that are grieving, all of the community that is grieving. Um, yeah, it's never easy to lose someone who you know. It's never easy to lose someone you're close with. I just think, yeah, it always has an impact no matter what. So just like all the love and tenderness.
Thank you, Bo. Shall
Yeah.
we dive in?
Yeah. Yes.
Does
I'm
that
like, we
feel?
keep being like, let's dive in. And then I'm like, oh, but just one more
I know,
thing.
I know. I mean, I'm such a systems nerd. Like I'm so like
Yeah.
it's like,
Totally.
so much. I mean, yeah, sociology and all
Yeah.
that shit. So it's very fun
Yeah.
for me.
Of
But
course. Well, then there's just two more things that I want to mention, which is
well, hell
one,
yeah.
I have friends who they worked at a mental health crisis line, and
Mm,
two separate friends told me that when Queer Ultimatum season 1 came out, they literally had people calling the crisis line to talk
mm,
about it because they were so distressed and triggered by the
mm,
show.
mm,
I'm not laughing because it's funny. I'm laughing because it's like, this is so, like, these are the impacts that these shows have on us. Like, they actually can, like, heal or, like, drive us further into crisis or, like, spiral
mm,
us or, whatever, activate us. So I just thought I was, like, both not surprised, but also shocked. Like,
mm,
dang, they, they really have an impact on our mental health.
mm,
And then the second thing was we talked about where it was filmed.
mm, mhm,
And I think we were like, is it Tampa? It's definitely Florida. And we found out that it was Miami and Fort Lauderdale. So
mm.
just bringing that up, that we were talking about Florida. We were talking about Miami. It was not Miami. Oh, wait. We were talking about Tampa. Sorry. It
Yeah,
was
yeah,
Miami.
yeah, 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 yeah. Yep. No, absolutely. And just sitting with, I mean, the mental health thing is so interesting. I'm just laughing again because we're talking about diving in, but I'm like, eh. But it is, I think, well, an immediate reaction to that is just thinking about like a couple thoughts. It's like one, the fact that we are such a like tight knit community that there could even be like recognition of like a direct correlation between like a show that is about like queer folk and relationships to like a like big mental health response within the community. So just thinking about that, like yes, like we are super super like connected.
Absolutely.
um and I guess thinking about it too in this moment, like this is probably the first show of that kind. I mean, this is the first show of its like format of this intermingling of like you are with so and so and then you'll swap with
Yeah.
so and so. Yeah, and I know that there was there were a lot of really triggering dynamics and content warning for like domestic violence that
Yeah.
happened in the last season. So it makes sense that there was like a big response. But it is
Absolutely.
interesting that like so much can be shown, but if it's not properly, and I was there was a commentator I was listening on who was like, like this is reality TV, like this is just trash, it's just entertainment, and I'm like, I really just don't like. I'm kind of sitting with the fact that, like, in some ways, this is like an aftercare podcast at this point. Like it kind of like
Yeah.
it is, like for real,
I was thinking about that.
yeah. This honestly,
A
I
soft
mean,
place for people to land after just
yeah, like
debauchery.
and keeping it real, right? It's not just like we will we will get into the dynamics of the show itself, but like it's like keeping it real on the like macro to the micro of like what we're seeing and its impacts. So that's
Yeah.
kind of sweet given like everything. So yeah, I hope
Yeah.
that for all of you listening, like this can be a little bit of some aftercare with everything that we've seen and everything going
Absolutely.
on.
In the world.
Mm-hmm.
Shout out to Palestine forever. Always thinking of folks in the West Bank and Gaza every day. And yeah, I was gonna wait. Megan did have a Palestine like kafia pin Did you notice that?
I did not. I did
It was
not.
very subtle. And I was
Okay.
like, how did you get away with this? Probably because it's so subtle.
Wow.
So we'll talk more about that. But I
Okay.
think now's a good transition time, I think.
Let's do it.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So episode 1, just gonna make some quick commentary on the host because it's everyone on the internet does not like that it is a cis straight host, except the people who were on the show.
Right.
Interesting.
Right. Right.
And
Yeah.
go ahead.
No, no, no. Please, please.
Tiff Durr, I think is how you said, and from season 1, you sent me this TikTok, Carolyn, how they were describing why Netflix might have chosen this host, and it has to do with like contracts and this and that. And Tiff was also like, "Oh, well, it bridges the gap between the cis straight world and us," which I'm like, I don't know if I agree or care about that as much. So yeah, I felt conflicting feelings about that.
Yeah, I mean, the tea seemed to be, according to Tiff, is that the alternate was like Nick and Vanessa Lachey, which is
Yeah.
like, ooh, like nobody, like, like watching like the regular
Yeah.
Ultimatum and Love Is Blind, like they have had, so many critiques as hosts.
Yeah.
But yeah, that idea of like, we're glad you're here. And like, in the non-linear fashion of this, if we jump literally all the way to the end, like, and I'm holding my little labubu. But if we
Yeah.
like jump all the way to the end, like, the last thing is that they're like thanking the host, like AJ starts
That
thanking
was
the host.
interesting.
For being here and for being this bridge. And for me, I am like, it's interesting the word like well-meaning, right? Like, and we often associate that with the phrase like well-meaning white woman or well-meaning white person. But in
Totally.
this point, like, like a well-meaning queer host who is like, honestly, in my mindset, and when we think about like the capitalist system, right, like the colonial capitalist system, this straight woman is holding a job that could have gone to a queer person, a black queer person. People were talking
1000%.
about like Niecy Nash would have been like a more appropriate, and like her spouse would have been like a more
Hell
appropriate,
yeah.
because they're like actually like queer married, like
Literally.
like
Yeah.
they're like this could have been somebody's
Yeah.
opportunity, and like actual like like even more like cultural representation and exploration than what we got with Joanna Garcia Swisher.
Yeah. It's like Netflix try harder. Like you can whatever. It's about contracts. It's easy to plug in. It was easy to plug and play this host, but I'm just like, just try harder. Actually, you could have done a lot more, and I'm not down to just be like, oh, this was like the easiest thing. Like the easiest thing is not always the right thing. So
1,000,000%.
yeah, and then in the first episode, they had like the platter of rings. Do you want to talk about the significance of that a bit?
Yeah, I mean, talk about like big feelings. Well, there has been like a lot of conversation with everything that has come to light with regards to the Congo, and how much like so many goods like coming out of the Congo, and like the Congo is one of the biggest diamond, mines in the world, right? Like that is where like a lot of them are sourced. And so to have, and because of that, there's been a lot of discourse about lab grown diamonds, and also like antique diamonds, like reusing diamonds from old rings and whatnot.
Mm,
And of course, like the value of diamonds is like all manufactured by De Beers. It's one of like the most famous marketing scams that there is, like overvaluing this thing. And
that's
so
wild.
yes. So the fact that that was like front and center in this show that is like supposed to be a queer show, and like this is not even like this is being kind of like pushed on us, you know, like the desire for like the literal bling. And it's interesting, and again, non-linearly jumping to the end,
I'm so excited for what you're
like
about to say.
well, you know, like Mel gives Marie a ring pop, but then like, you know, like there was this feeling of like, okay, but where's the real ring? You know,
Right.
like and that. So yeah, I
And
just think
AJ got Brittany like a bigger diamond, and that was a thing
right.
too. Yeah.
Yup. And there's been
Yeah.
so much discourse about these big diamond industries, and so here we have it put in our face.
Of course. And it's not just this reality TV show. The Bachelor, Bachelorette's really big on that. They
Mm.
have like this older cis white dude named Neil Lane. He's definitely the devil incarnate, like for
Oh.
sure. But he has a recurring role every season where he shows the things of rings to folks, and they have to choose, and it's this whole thing. So yeah, it's integrated into reality TV as a whole, I think, especially, or like dating reality TV. And also just want to comment on like the depths of the propaganda
Mm.
of diamonds, and how there's different like state organizations and companies who use like specific regulatory guidelines to be like, we're sourcing this ethically. And it's like, the propaganda, the way they make it seem like on the surface, if you did not know any better to question it, like you'd be like, oh, it seems okay. But like it's really not. And they will definitely like, these companies and regulators are funded by the same people who are sending arms to Israel and also being funded by Israel. So the same people who are regulating what is good, safe, ethical practice are the same people, and like enabling child slavery, slavery in the Congo are the same people who are sending bombs to genocide folks in Palestine. So just like tying the knots there.
Tying the knots.
Yeah.
Ay, ay,
Oh!
ay.
Oh my gosh.
But like, you know, something that we have talked about, as we have talked about, literally talking about this show, but like everything in Empire is designed for us to ignore who takes like the brunt of like our trinkets, our comforts. And so this is one of the things where like the
Yes.
cost is to the people in the Congo for this, you know, fantasy of like what commitment means because De Beers wanted to make money, you know?
Yeah.
So
In some ways, I'm like, maybe it, not that it would be fine, and maybe it's just like an ignorant thing to say, but like if the people of Congo were genuinely being paid well, had really good working conditions, and were actually getting paid for the like proportion of the mark, like, you know, if they were getting what they deserve and actually had good working conditions, that would be a whole nother thing, but that is just not the case. So
yeah. And that's like the, oh my God, the natural stone industry. It's the same
yeah.
sapphires in Sri Lanka. It's just like,
Yeah.
oh, it is so deep. It is
Yeah.
so deep. These,
Right.
yeah. Yep.
Deep breath.
Colonization.
Yeah.
Colonization, y'all.
Sending love to all of the Congolese folks. If you're listening, like, support you, love you, here for you in whatever way we can be. So, shall we take like a little breath and move on? I know that was a heavier systemic thing, but important.
Mm.
Cool.
Yeah.
You ready?
Yeah.
All right. So there's two or three more things in the episode one that stuck out to me. One, they really just, like, the producers really just throw people into an environment where they have to watch their ex slash partner flirt with other people.
Mm-hmm.
And you can just really see how very jarring that is for folks on screen. And particularly Megan was like, I'm emotionally fried. And it was just a lot I think it's a lot to expect from people. And I would love to see more care go into that.
I'm thinking about polyamory, like, and like, it's so much about agreements. And it's like, I mean, in this show, you are agreeing to go into this context, but like, knowing what your agreements are, like, takes time and thus to, like, be thrown into it. Because in polyamory, you can have an agreement that's like, I don't want to see you flirting with anybody
Yeah.
else. When we're out on a date, I don't want to see you flirting with anybody else. I don't want to be like privy to that.
Yeah.
And so this is very jarring. And I'm sure a lot of people is maybe first time kind of like feeling this thing of literally watching people like your partner go date somebody else in front of you while you are also trying to be present and date a bunch of new people.
It's a lot. It's a lot. Would love to see these folks have care plans in place. Would love to see the producers like genuinely care about people's nervous systems in these situations. Because I'm not like opposed to people being in these situations, but I am opposed to it when they have absolutely no like care around it. Do you want to talk about the white chocolate thing?
Oh my goodness. ah! Um, oh man. Yeah. I mean, okay. So like episode 1 we have like AJ, and AJ is like flirting with like 3 people, and shout out to the watch party, like everybody was kind of like ooh, like but one of the things that was the most jarring was when like AJ is like looking at everybody at the party, and one of the things she says is like, oh, like Marita, like that's some like white chocolate, like she'd give him the white chocolate, and it's like, oh my god. It was that was a very tough watch. When I watched it the first time, I like texted my friend immediately. I was like, because it is really jarring. Sometimes that's used, and we talked about this a lot at the watch party, like the ways, like, we talk about colonization on this podcast, right? So it's like there is this centering of like this white gaze, and sometimes when like Black folks are attracted to white people, like they will call them like white chocolate, but like that is so, it's so cringy. It is
Yeah,
so like like putting this like racial pedestalization, and also like the like just the discomfort of that, and the discomfort of that, seeing how also like Brittany was treated, like it was so bad personally when I solo watched it, and then to see it collectively, like it just was a really really tough dynamic, as was of course like watching AJ have all of these partners, and they are like all these potential interests, and they are all like white to like very like light, when her partner is like the only dark skin femme, the only
totally.
like like Black femme in the space. So very very challenging.
1000%. 1000%.
Definitely got the ick.
Big ick.
The ick
Big
was
ick.
born.
Yes. And the last thing on episode one, the ick was born.
The
That's
ick was
funny.
born. The ick was like fully seeded. It germinated in that moment. The ick.
Yes. Megan said how in Lebanese culture, no one is out and proud. I think my initial reaction to that was like personal, because I was like, what about me? But there is genuinely so much shame, and the reality is, like, I'm the only queer person that I know of on my Lebanese family. So I don't know. I have to assume that there's other queer people there. So, but I don't know, and that just hit me in a variety of ways.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, 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 yeah. And like sitting with the tenderness of like that story being told,
Yeah,
like that story being like shared. And like, yes, there are like folks who are like, I don't know, like, yes, we have like multitudes of like experiences, perspectives. And Megan's journey with it is like interesting, like the overall arc. I'm sitting too with like her like connection with Pilar, who like also like similarly coming from like that place. Like,
yeah,
um, I'm glad at least they had each other.
yeah,
Like I was glad for like that conversation. I just wish like there had been even more support because like we think about like we talked about this in the like the part with the systems, right? Like the kind of more systems analysis, but like everybody else is like the majority of the cast is white, like
yeah,
and may not have like this cultural understanding, and so like they're really like some of their only support is each other, and that is like also
for
really
sure.
challenging. So I kept thinking about that, like what kind of support do they have, what kind of support, because like you're saying, like as you're talking about like like what about me and like such, like I'm like, man, I don't know. Even bringing in people, like I'm like they could have brought in. I was thinking about like Too Hot to Handle. Like Too Hot to Handle kind of like brings in, or like what was that show? Couple to Thruple. Like they'll bring in people. They could have brought in somebody like who actually like shares like cultural history and stuff
That would
and
have
can
been
like
cool.
yeah, like to actually give them like tangible support and to also show other possibility.
That would have been
Um
so fucking cool.
because that's a lot to hold. And then again,
Yeah,
I just thinking about Pilar and all of the like, you should have just come out. Like, I'm like, they just like,
man.
folks could have had like real support, and we could have had more. I mean, even thinking about the role that, like, it's just so funny. I did not think, but thinking about like Natasha, like Tiff's friend, who kind of like came out, like I don't know if you
Mm,
remember, like like and all the conversations that they had, but even in their friend groups last time there was more that was brought in of possibility about
mm,
like what they were experiencing. But I think in this point, like because both of them seemingly didn't have that communal support,
yeah,
maybe outside support would have been more helpful.
yeah.
Other
Because
peer support or
the friends of Megan's, particularly that we met, I don't think we met any of Pilar's friends? Question mark. Um, do you recall?
I don't I
Yeah, I don't think we
or
did.
maybe we did. Okay. I'm going to say this. If it's not true, I will edit it out. But I
Okay,
think I had a moment that I was like, does Pilar have any like non-white friends? Like I feel like we met white people in the beginning. Like I think we met like white friends, which concerned me because I was like,
that was Megan as well, for sure.
right, right. Or that might have been about Megan, but I wrote down like, do they have like friends of color or friends of similar cultural backgrounds? Because that's like really like I feel like our communities can really best hold us with this. Like
Oh,
there was this for
absolutely.
me, there was a lot of healing when I continued to dive deeper into like community of color, Black
1000%.
community, Dominican community, queer community, like yeah, just gets deeper.
Because the culture, like our cis heterosexual family, often doesn't want to give that to us. They want to like gatekeep it. And so
Mm,
we have to rediscover it and find it on our own in a queer way, in a trans way.
mm.
And being able to do that, I think, like you're saying, is just very healing.
I hope that both Megan and Pilar are like have been able to, or like after this is released, are more able to find
Absolutely.
that support and community.
Absolutely. All right, so moving on to episode 2, some things that stuck out for me. One was AJ talking about her parents, actually, specifically her mom, because I guess her mom was asking Brittany or some other partner if she makes AJ come, which I thought was very funny. Personally, my mom gave me this book called The Lowdown on Going Down when I
Oh
was
wow.
17 and like coming out, which in hindsight is like very sweet. So it wasn't as direct and explicit and more, it
Mm.
was more educational in that way, I guess. So I don't know, passing no judgments, just appreciating parents who aren't shy about sex with their kids.
Yeah, I think that is an interesting. Yeah, if we'll talk about it a little more like macroly, like it's
Go for it.
like pleasure education is super important and
Yeah.
not something that is often emphasized at all. I mean, the sex education in this country and globally, right? Because we talk
Yeah.
about the global reach of the show is like absolute Shiite. Like
Trash.
it is absolutely awful. So, and to think about that also from like a queer lens, like, oh my God, like if you have any sex education at all, like, and I'm assuming your parents may be like cishet or like, you know, like, but maybe not, but like the likelihood of getting sex education, let alone pleasure education or any discussion of like the importance of pleasure is just like not really there. Bridget talks about that, like, you know, like not really having those conversations. And so that is
Yeah.
like an interesting thing that like AJ brought forward. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And then, yeah, talking about this episode, episode 2, is when Mel brought up her chronic pain, which we
Mm.
found out in the reunion because
Of Marie. Marie.
Marie
Yeah.
said that she had lupus, which I was like, did Mel consent to this? I wonder if Mel shared the diagnosis
They
on
never had.
camera.
She never had before, or at least for maybe on camera, but not that we saw.
Not that we
Which
saw.
with Marie, which Marie would have known at the
Yeah.
point of the reunion because they had seen all the episodes.
Yeah. That was painful to watch.
I agree.
Yeah. But definitely lots of shout outs and love to Mel because I do think there is a lot. We were perceiving, I think, some internalized ableism around being deserving of love, being deserving of long term love. And that doesn't come from nowhere, right? Because our world is ableist and just straight up does not know how to talk about or care for disability. Meanwhile, I would argue that a majority of people, at the very least, are in chronic pain. Like, at the bare minimum, disability, I think a lot of us are in pain. A lot of us have mental health issues. And so, yeah, just more education is needed around what consensual care looks like, around just what it looks like to care for each other when we're disabled, what it looks like to even name that we have a disability and feel enough at peace with it. Not to say it's going to be fully, but
Yeah, no, and like intimacy and dating, because also like I mean, it was good to see, like, you
yeah,
know, like to watch somebody essentially date, you know, like with
absolutely.
like chronic pain with disability. That's
Absolutely.
something that has been like challenging for me since the concussion, like trying to find a way with that and the feelings that can come up of the challenges.
For
So
sure.
it was definitely good to see.
I agree.
And good to see that it was like pretty well received as well, like by
Bye,
Brittany.
Brittany. Shout out.
Yeah, no, definitely, definitely. So, important. Important conversation, definitely.
Yeah, especially when queer and trans folks have, I mean, I don't know the exact number, but I know for sure, like, we suffer more than the general population from disabilities, from mental
Absolutely.
health and illness, from, or I don't even know if I want to call illness, but from mental health struggles, from suicidality. Again, there's absolutely no shame to any of those things, but it is a struggle because we live in an ableist world that doesn't allow us to just be. So
Yeah,
it's important to talk about.
and for real though, like also the implications. It's interesting in an American context because I mean, literally, like Medicaid is under threat as we
Yeah,
are like recording this with the big beautiful bill and all this stuff. Like
right.
it is. This is a country without healthcare, and because of U.S. imperialism, so many places do have like privatized healthcare and things like, so yeah, yeah, this the strain of that on the relationship, and the worry about that for the future was like super real, and only more real by the minute at this point, you know.
Absolutely. 1000%. 1000%. So that we could have a whole episode on that.
Oh,
So I'm going to
absolutely.
keep going. Episode 3 was The Choice.
Mm,
And a few things that stuck out to me was it felt like to me because Brittany was got the outcome that she did, which was, in my opinion, completely unfair and anti-Black, arguably. It felt like she was masking. Like, it felt like to me as I was
mm,
watching, she was like, I'm gonna be happy and figure this out and it's okay. And like, she was smiling a lot. And as I was looking at her, I could feel that there was something behind that. And just like the next day, at least that's how they framed it in the morning.
mm.
That's how the producers framed it in the morning. She like started to have a breakdown a bit and was crying and really upset, validly so. But I just thought that was like really interesting because so many of us do that. Our initial reaction is to just try and ease the pain by making the best of the situation when there is like often so much more underneath.
I mean, ooh, that's the way that episode 3 ends, and like I was livid. I big feelings. I had really big feelings about how the choice went down,
Yeah,
how Brittany, ended up. Although watching the bigger arc is like adds more, and like the like beyond like the social media posts and things, but yeah, I'm glad you said it in terms of the like masking because I felt that way too, and that also was really tough to watch, like in
yeah,
terms of racial
it
dynamics,
was
because like yeah, like like Black women having to like kind of put on a face for white women for their
totally,
experience, and then like her being like, I will get into my zaddy energy for you and give you the romance that you deserve, and it's like like she is doing this care work for this white woman, and like
totally,
that was really tough to watch too. Like I really like I walked away from that episode being like, oh my, like I just was so distraught, um
valid.
because yeah, it's just very it's just a dynamic, just the whole arc of what happened, how Brittany experienced it, and then having to do this like people pleasing
I know,
with this racial charge, and then being really like not having anyone of your own choosing, like it was just so much. So that was Carolyn's biggest feels of the whole season, I would say, was that
for
moment.
sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Very painful, very hard to watch. Thank you for sharing. I'll just name one more thing in this episode. When Haley and Megan were talking, they kind of like one of the first moments they were talking when they were coupled off. Megan was sharing how anybody can do sex, but getting to know and getting along with someone can be more meaningful. And I don't know, I just appreciated that because not like, I love sex and pleasure, and also in this particular situation, I think it makes sense that they took time to get to know each other before bringing in the sexual element. No shade or shame if they did do that. I just think it can be valuable to kind of get to know someone a bit first, especially if you're trying to have like a long-term relationship with them.
No, definitely. I mean, I think that because of how all that played out, I think that I was really rooting for Megan and Haley
At first.
at first. And thus, like, yes, like you're saying, like, exactly like these dynamics of like getting to know each other and like feeling like where they're on the same page and like them giving each other like more confidence and support. Like, like, well, I mean, the trailer kind of spoiled it with the rose scene that we
Yeah.
although was that in this episode too? No, that might be in episode 4, like
I
some
think
of
it
the.
was 4.
Yeah, we'll talk about it in episode 4. But yeah, we can like let's get into episode 4.
Sounds good. Sounds good. So at one point, Kyle and Pilar were discussing marriage, and the
Mm.
way they were talking about it, it was like with this finality of if you're
Mm.
married, that's it. And that's a theme throughout. We saw Kyle's parents actually talking about it that way in a later episode. So you can definitely
Mm.
see that kind of transfer of
Mm.
intergenerational
Yeah, perspective.
perspective, which I thought was cool. Not cool like the concepts of what they're saying is cool, but just this very visible transfer of perspective
Mm.
and how that can happen in so many ways. And yeah, I mean, did we can talk a little bit. Marriage got brought up a lot because Bridget too, not necessarily in this episode, but Bridget's whole thing was like, why can't we just be together? Why
Right.
can't we be how we are and not get married? And that
Right.
is a valid question. Why get married? And I think people do it for a whole host of reasons. I know for me, when I think about marriage, I think more about death and like financial benefits and kind of like protection. Nothing will fully protect us from the state and fascism because they will do what they want to do. But I think there is kind of this like perception that if I'm married, I'm safer
Mm.
from the state. I'm safer from my like any family that I don't want to be involved in my after death arrangements or, whatever that looks like. And
Mm.
then, so that's like one part is like the legal kind of parts. And then the other part is people do it because they're in love and they think it's
Mm.
like this ultimate, like,
Sign of
solid.
commitment.
That one.
Yeah, and that's interesting as we think about the wedding industry and how huge it is in America and how expensive and all this
Very.
stuff. That then has also spread abroad, like this like white wedding aesthetic or other cultures and like I've watched videos of Nigerian weddings and how like the like money spent has only gone up because of like social media and things. So there is a lot of money that has now been emphasized to be spent with this industry. So
Absolutely.
yeah, emphasizing that for queer people is another market to get some money from.
Well, that's always so interesting because there's also like big corporations such as Target or these other big corporations who are big on pride and getting the gay market who are now placating to white supremacists.
Mm.
And not that they They always were,
Right.
but
Absolutely. Absolutely. And then putting on some pride drag, you know, like terrible
yes,
drag. It's not
literally.
even drag. Like
I
that is
know.
an insult to drag.
Truly, truly.
Yeah.
So it is interesting to see kind of how these large corporations within capitalism try to placate us, and marriage is definitely one of them.
Yeah. There was, I think, the kink scene between, like, yeah, like so one of the things that was in the trailer was like Haley touching like Megan blindfolded with a rose. But like when I watched the scene, I could tell that like they were probably not super experienced with kink.
Oh,
Um,
definitely.
which is like a thing in relationships. Like that is definitely a
Of
place.
course.
Like sometimes people explore and start to, explore kink within like committed partnership or partnership. But it could be cool if you brought in a black queer trans educator, sex educator, pleasure educator, dom, professional dom,
It's a
you
genius
know,
idea.
like, or professional sex educator, like I like pleasure educator, sex workers. That's what, like, like I could have been a great opportunity. Honestly, I mean, how cool would that be? In
It would
because
be really cool.
there was like the Love Island USA, like there was like a kink element, and they'll bring that in, and I'm just like, like it is so different, especially when it is centering like black, queer, like trans, non-binary femmes, and how kink is done and how kink is educated upon.
A thousand
So I
percent.
would have loved that. Would have loved that. Honestly, would make the show so much better
It
too.
would.
Like for
It
the audience
would.
and for the participants to talk about intimacy, to talk about pleasure and exploration, whether in their new partnerships or in the older ones. So yeah.
It reminds me of How to Build a Sex Room a
Oh my
little
god, I
bit.
love that show. It was problematic in some ways. Like there
Of
were racial,
course.
because this
Of
white
course.
woman and anyway, that's
100%. Yeah.
a whole conversation. But there was a
Yeah.
lot of possibility making that show also gave.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And just because we're on the topic of sex, I'll just say Mel made a silly joke where she was like, "Where would you like me to put my dirty
Oh
fingers?"
my
And
god.
I cringed
Oh my
so
god, the ick.
hard. I was like, "Nowhere."
No, the ick. Not
Wash
the
your
dirt.
hands.
Literally wash your, like this is like hello infections. Hello,
Literally.
like
Bacteria.
bacteria, health,
I'm good.
like, oh my goodness. Was
Yeah.
this the episode also where AJ talked about like speaking pussy language, and the cat looks
Yes.
at the cat like the cat really looks like, did y'all see that? Like, did y'all like hear what I heard? Like,
Yes.
did you also hear this cringy statement? So there were a lot of liners in this season, and that was a big feeling, and that feeling was cringe. And
Just another reason that these producers need to hire you and get information about how to make these shows better in terms of education.
sure, let's hire both of us. Let's go. Let's go.
Or duo. Okay, so content warming. I am about to talk about domestic violence and cops being called because I thought this was a. It just was a very interesting look into Ashley as a
Mm.
person and kind of maybe why she is the way that she is. But yeah, so just giving a little, I'm kind of just meandering to give folks a little time to skip forward or not listen to this part. But Ashley was sharing with Bridget about her past partner who physically abused her. And Ashley's roommate called the cops on Ashley's girlfriend. And basically, I'm not going to go into the details because I don't think that's necessary. But in some, the cops did end up arresting Ashley's girlfriend. And kind of Ashley's whole thing about this was the first time they tried to arrest her, she lied for her girlfriend. And the second time she had to lie, which is when they were in court, she was also lying so she wouldn't get charges. So I had so many feelings about this, but primarily I was like, Ashley, are you a cab? Like, I don't know. Like, it's so it's so layered and messed up, and yeah, I don't know. I just thought it was interesting that she lied. I'm really glad she got out of that relationship, and I hope there has been healing for everyone involved.
I want to plug while we're talking here. Like, there's a resource called don'tcallthepolice.com, which is like local alternatives to calling the police that are like not carceral. So,
Yes.
you know, yeah, question like, yeah, is Ashley a cab? Like, I mean, a lot of people do like not want to like escalate into the legal system, or like the carceral system.
Yeah.
So that website, and just thinking like creating more resources, right? That like we can have local support for when there is like an escalating situation like that, outside of the state is super important. So yeah, offering that as we're talking about this.
Thank you. Absolutely. That's a great place to start, a great resource. Thank you for plugging that. I don't necessarily need to say more about it, but I did think it was significant, and as much as I don't want like I wanted Ashley to get out of that situation. I wanted her roommate to be out of that situation. I also don't want her to be in jail because I don't think that will end the cycle.
Right.
So I think there are a lot of other ways that the cycle could be ended. Um, yeah, I don't know. It's a tough one. Hopefully,
Definitely.
and primarily
Definitely.
the person has to want that. So I don't know.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely. But there is like support that folks can receive like on so many levels with regards to like why that they may respond or react that way in different relationships, and or
absolutely,
in that real specific container. And there's like lots of resources and support of folks who like will hold folks through that process if they want to be held, which is like the where it all begins. So
absolutely.
yeah.
Main takeaway.
Absolutely.
This is Layla from the future after doing some reflection, particularly on this piece as it relates to Ashley and the physical abuse that she mentioned and was experiencing. And in all politics and ACAB jokes aside, physical and emotional abuse is very serious and does happen in our communities. It can often get overlooked. And in the situation that we know of what Ashley was in, she lied to the courts. She didn't want to see this person go to prison. And we don't know exactly what those conversations were like between Ashley and their ex partner at the time, what kind of manipulation was happening around that line to the courts, around the line to the police. But what we do know is that Ashley was being physically abused, and that is a really serious matter. And Ashley is a survivor and had to, and is definitely, as we saw potentially in the show, struggling with some of those emotional blocks that comes from being a survivor. So sending lots of love to Ashley and all of the survivors out there. And for we already plugged Do Not Call the Police, I also wanted to plug a resource by the Anti-Police Terror Project called Interrupting Intimate Partner Violence. Full disclosure, APTP leadership has been found to be union busting and doxing some of their former employees, so that is bad. And also, this is one of the most comprehensive resources that I know of around community support and interrupting intimate partner violence without the police. Two more things from episode. I mean, there's many more things, but just for the sake of time, two more things on episode 4. One was Pilar and Kyle's conflict, where Pilar and Kyle made out, but Kyle did not want to be making out. And it was clear that there was so much like cutting and editing happening in this conversation, so I have absolutely no clue what was truly said and when. But clearly they were both activated. And what I really thought was sweet was by the end of the first and second conversation that we saw, especially Kyle was very much like, I think I have a lot of people-pleasing tendencies, and Pilar really held me through this conflict, and I felt really loved and cared for, and Kyle was crying, and yeah, just sharing that she felt really safe to move through the conflict with Pilar, which I thought was sweet.
Yeah, and even like, you know, in the finale, like echoing that, like the reunion, and again, non-linearity, but like, you know, like a year, like that was recorded like a year later.
Yeah,
and
I was wondering. I was like, when was this recorded?
Yeah, they said that the ultimatum had. So I guess it was a year later, which doesn't mean that it was recent to now either.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't last time.
Yeah.
So, yeah, like the fact that that was so transformative for Kyle and possibility making for Kyle, and impactful is it was really beautiful. Yeah, and I agree with all the like the editings, like, you know, like it, like we kind of talked about in the beginning, like, you know, and with the teaser trailer, like you have to hold like all of the production and creation of narrative, because yes, it was really hard to kind of like piece out like what were all of the dynamics in the thing. But the biggest takeaway is that like conflict can make room for healing and possibility, even when like, oh my god, with people pleasing, when it's like, oh my god, no, like or being afraid of conflict, but like doing so in like loving containers and with like support, it can be really, really healing. Beautiful.
Absolutely. As far as education goes, would also love to see them bring in like a conflict mediator or someone who has to do like education with them about conflict and the nervous system and repair. I think that could be in a circle, maybe format. I think that could be really sweet.
And it would need to be culturally centered, because I also do remember, and again, the dynamic with Tiff and Mildred was but one of the things that Mildred brought up is like, but I'm Latina and this is how we and there's actually a lot of Love Island USA is happening concurrently, and there's a lot about like cultural things of how people communicate and like what is, you know, like holding things, and also like holding all of that can be held very well, and having like somebody who can do that would be everything. 1,000%. It would be so deeply educational. And we're talking about like the aftercare, right? So we're seeing things play out, and then there could actually be like aftercare and holding.
Yes.
Even think about like Temptation Island was actually like the host actually was really good at holding people.
I think you're right.
Yeah, no, he was. And he is not like a clinic. Like people thought he was a therapist. He's not.
I know.
He's just a person who has lived, which again, shout out to lived experience. Because like it can really, like that honestly, that really is what can bear us to understanding and holding all of it. But yeah,
Fully. I was actually confused watching him because I was so surprised.
we've never, I don't think I've ever seen, maybe like the couple to throuple like therapist that they brought in was cool, but like
Yeah.
I think those have been the only two like really cool hosts that I have ever seen
Yeah.
like actually doing this role of like holding and facilitating really well.
Yes. What is the host name of Queer Ultimatum again?
Joanna
Garcia.
Garcia Swisher.
Joanna Garcia Swisher. Speaking of aftercare, and part of why my nervous system was so jarred by the reunion was I felt the transitions were so harsh.
Yes, I mean she wasn't really facilitating, to be honest.
Yeah, it went from one really intense, harsh conversation to let's talk about the happy things. And I was like, I'm still catching
Right.
up. Dang. So, anyway, one last thing on episode 4 is what I thought was interesting. Kyle was talking about Bridget's neurodivergence, I think.
I mean like I also was like noting that because I related like like the whole time
Yeah.
I was like but again I don't know, right? Like we don't know.
Yeah.
And it would
Kyle.
be, go
Sorry, go
ahead.
ahead. No, no, please.
It would be interesting if we knew because oh my god, like the like active, like full on, like open neurodivergent representation in like because it's so different dating, like just like the agreements, the kinds of communication that I have had, honestly the ease with which dating neurodivergent people when you are neurodivergent because y'all can like talk about the accommodations that you need or like
Absolutely.
communication style or things. So I guess I'll just say that I just it would be cool to
Yeah.
have that like openly in like
Yeah.
yeah.
It feels, at least from what we saw, it feels like they don't have the language because Kyle's describing it as bizarre and
Right.
weird. And
Right.
why would Bridget be humming when she's bored? It's like, that makes sense to me. That
It
she's
made
humming.
sense to me. Or Bridget's many interests or things like that.
Yes.
Like which like it is like the magic that was 2020 and onward with everybody just getting on that internet talking about like
Totally.
ADHD, autism, like bipolar, BPD, like and talking about these things and people having like context with which to understand things that they had just thought were quirks or weird
Yes.
and like labels and conversations about labels and the DSM is like a whole other thing, but the self-understanding and also the community and then the relational understanding that has come from that has been huge. So it is tough to like watch somebody be like how bizarre when it's just like I don't know, right?
This
Like
is maybe
but
just the accommodation that they need to feel okay and as regulated as possible, whatever that means for them. So, moving on to episode 5, I was drawn to a conversation that Marie and AJ were having, where Marie was having a very hard time
mm,
with in her trial marriage
mm,
and was just noticing that stuff regarding her mom was coming up and grief around
mm,
her death and all this. And Marie said, I thought I healed from this years ago. And that just
mm,
really stuck with me because it's very relatable. I think so many of us think that, or, we want to just be healed and for parts of us to just feel healed. And I think while there are points where they feel more healed than others, or there are points where maybe we feel just completely healed. I
mm,
like this the spiral metaphor
mm.
where life is a spiral and time is a spiral, and kind of as you're journeying along in the spiral, you always end up in the same spot, like vertically within the
Mm,
spiral, but you have done so much in between then and that last spot.
mm,
So it's not like you're it's completely new, but it's going to
mm,
be different. And maybe you've learned
mm,
more tools, maybe you've learned more skills, or maybe
mm.
not. Maybe it feels like a regression and whatever that looks like. But I just thought
Yeah.
that was really tender.
I'm glad you brought it up because that definitely like what Marie was sharing. Like also yes, the spiral metaphors. So and I, thinking about my own like indigenous like Arawakan traditions, like one of the symbols in our which is very common across like indigenous cultures is like the
Mm-hmm.
notion of the spiral.
Yep.
And yeah, thinking about, here on this like recovery podcast and things and
Absolutely.
feeling called to talk about like yeah like like the notion of like relapse or whatever, and it's like I've never like it's spiral, it is all an amalgamation of like I don't like the word relapse, I don't use the word relapse, but like like it is all like our journeys, our healing, our recovery journeys, like they are all in like an amalgamation even if we like come back to certain points. um
Absolutely.
Diving a little deeper about Marie, like something also that she was talking about is kind of like in these like moments, like in these free moments that I have, because something that came up when I was like engaging with what she was saying is that like I think about like we live in capitalist system, we live in colonial capitalist system. And like one of the big things is that like we do need like time and space to heal. But a lot of times in our lineages and in our
Absolutely.
lives, like I mean, there can be a lot of things going on, right? Like the systems do not give us the time and space to heal, to process, to grieve, to learn, to integrate more, like so
Facts.
and Marie specifically talks about like how her and Mel like have constantly been in a cycle of something, so they haven't been, so also there's that, right? Like as we talk about being an ongoing pandemic, an ongoing genocide, like there are things ongoing, capitalist imperial hell, like it is ongoing, so there is a struggle to like really even process while you're in the ongoing, um and like engage with it and really notice how it's feeling,
For
but there is
sure.
also like the ways with which like also by being busy, keeping busy, it can also like there's the system that keeps us busy, and then there also may be something that we kind of like default to of like I'm going to keep myself so busy so that I don't have like like I don't sit with this, and this can be something that like you know
Totally.
it's like all of the above. There's the like systemic impact, the way that that has rolled down the hill for generations of under colonization and capitalism and patriarchy as well, right? Like talking about like women, femmes, like non-binary trans folk, and like the societal pressure to like hold and care give to where there's no capacity, or like having to provide under these systems that there's no capacity. So yeah, I just say all that to say there's systemic reasons why we may not have capacity to process or to feel or to grieve. And then also
Totally.
sometimes personally, that can kind of safeguard us from the heavy weight of everything that we have been holding, especially when we don't have adequate support to like be with it, which also may be present, right? So
1000%. I love the summary you gave at the end of what you were just saying. And I think you just summed it up perfectly: the systemic, the personal, the support. That,
absolutely.
yeah, beautiful. Beautifully said. So, speaking of healing and mental health stuff and distractions, Dana, after she spoke with Megan on the phone,
Hmm.
was seemingly having a panic attack
Hmm.
and was talking about was just saying, like, I feel like I can't breathe. I feel like I'm going to die. And I don't know. I just wanted to say that that's very real. That panic attacks can and do make us feel like we can't breathe, make us feel like we're going to die. And it knocks you out as well, right? And I would love to see more education, more, what's the word? Like,
support,
yeah, more
yeah.
acknowledging of the reality of how these things impact us in our day to day. I know for me, just personally, my own, about to get personal, but my own mental health crisis was driven by regular panic attacks, sometimes multiple times a day, multiple times a week, and that really can make you not want to do anything. I mean, it's hard to do
It's hard
anything
to
when
do
you're in
anything.
that space. So I was just
Oh my
feeling
God.
for Dana in that moment of like, yeah, that shit's painful, bruh. It's so
It is.
painful.
And especially if you don't have any like the support part. Like I also like panic attacks, like especially about health stuff can like kick in for me. And
Yeah,
then if um shout out to Moira. But like I have a friend that I text like that is like, "Hey, can I tell you about this like little panic that I'm having?" And we like just like hold each other in that. But like if
that's
you don't
great.
have that,
That
like
really helps.
it does. Like just
Yeah,
to even be witnessed of like especially like, things about heart attacks and stuff. Like I don't know, like it's just like if you
of
don't
course.
have somebody who like can understand what you're going through or what like the physical symptoms and emotional mental symptoms that are coming up like with also panic attack and the root of why you're panicking, like it just oh, there's so much healing available when we are in the presence of people who can hold us, is what I will say. And it would be really, really
Beautifully
cool
said.
to have more holding on these kinds of shows.
Yes, I like the word you use, witnessing, because sometimes that
Mm,
really is just all it takes is just being seen and acknowledged for your reality. And there is so much stigma around mental health and even like psychosis and hallucinations or whatever that is. And so much of it is just being able to hold folks in what their reality is and not just brush it off like, oh, you're crazy.
yeah, which is
So,
definitely one of the defaults of our society. Is
facts.
so again, why it can also be deeply healing when we're like being supported. I also just want to shout out. I've been like holding my little labubu here. If you're like needing to like grab something soft, whether it's a stuffed figure, I've got two two labubus. But
Nice.
if you if you're needing to like seek some solace, just an invitation to do that as you're listening.
Yes, a great invitation. Take a drink of water, pause and come back, whatever that looks like for you. So, during the night out between the givers and receivers, where they separated them, which I thought was interesting, and I don't think they did
They
that.
didn't do that
Yeah,
last time. No, that was distinct.
yeah. But just the one thing I mean, many things stuck out, but one of the main things that stuck out was when Mel directly asked Megan, "Do you want to talk to me privately?" And then followed up with, "I want to talk to you," which I think that stuck out to me because I think often we disguise offers as requests. And I think Mel did that here, where initially she was giving an offer. Megan, do you want to talk to me?
Right.
But then she came out and was like, no, actually, I want to talk to you. And that was the request. And I thought that was good.
there was a similar parallel with later episode with Megan and Haley, where Megan's like approaches Haley for a conversation
Oh
and is
yeah,
like, "Do you want to talk?" And Haley's
that's
like,
right.
"Not particularly, but like I'm open to if you want to." And then Megan is like, "Yeah, this is what I want to talk about," and like, "Is that okay?" And then
Yeah,
Haley's like, "Yeah, like." Let's do it, like begrudgingly, but like let's do it. So
yeah,
yeah, I did notice that too. And like, yeah, like we are definitely not socialized to be like direct in that kind of communication,
not at all.
like not at all. So I also thought that like actual framing, like in,
Yeah,
like on TV, very, very cool in terms of like possibility giving of like, oh, you can actually just be direct of like, hey, I'd like to have a conversation. Like, would you be open to that?
absolutely. The
And even
directness.
caveating a little bit with like what you'd want to talk about. We had a moment of that like relatively recently of like, hey, I want to have a conversation. What is it about? So I can, that's what you were like, what is it about? So I can like ready my nervous system. And I'm like, God, we get to ask for these things. Like, like we really possibility giving.
Absolutely, absolutely. So much, so much that can be done. So much healing. Initially, one of my first taglines for my little company was communication as medicine, which I still feel a lot of truth in.
Absolutely.
The last thing in episode 5, I think, is that I just thought it was cute after Brittany and Marita were talking in bed. Marita was like, "Should we watch Norbit together now?" After getting like love from Brittany about her mental health, which I again like I'm very sensitive to what you're saying earlier, just about Marita getting support as a white woman from like a dark skinned black woman, and the part where they were showing care to each other by just watching a cute thing, I think was very relatable.
Yeah. Is this the oxtail yet?
No, not yet, but you feel free to
Okay.
talk about it.
No, no, no. Let's talk about the oxtail when it's time to talk about the ox.
Yeah. Okay,
No.
sounds good. So, episode 6 is when Mel and Dana got matching tattoos. I don't think we need to spend much time on that because everyone else is spending time on it, but that was pretty wild.
Yeah, I'm like, what is there even to say?
Yeah.
It was a lot. It was big.
Yeah.
There
Yeah.
are
And
questions of like, was it done in spite? Was it done in
yeah.
like, yeah.
This was a big episode because it was right before they got back with their original partners. So all of the closeouts and stuff were happening. And the other thing that happened was Haley and Megan saying that they love each other. And I wrote in my
Mm.
notes, LMAO, I can't. Apparently, I thought that was very funny. But just, I don't know, I was like, wow, I'm not surprised.
I mean, like I guess part of why people like jokingly talked about this being like a funny kind of format for queer people is that like queer people could fall in love
Genuinely.
in a 3 week time,
They
and
really
like
could.
here we are seeing it, like yeah.
Absolutely. Also, just a small note on Megan and Haley. Haley is like the tall femme, and Megan is the short mask, which is a dynamic that I love. Shout out to the short masks and the tall femmes out there.
Hey. I'm like Brittany and AJ are also that
That's
kind of
true.
yeah.
That's very true. Yeah. All right, episode 7.
Is this the oxtail?
It is.
Yes.
It is.
Oh, I had a dream we had this conversation.
Really.
LOL. Yes, yes, in this moment. Oh my goodness. That well.
Go for it.
I thought that was so, yeah. Oh man. I mean, I'm gonna meme that, like that will be in the meme drop about the
Hell
oxtail.
yeah.
But like it's like funny, like, is this like the changeover? Like this is this
Yeah,
episode also? Yeah, yeah, yeah. So like, um apparently like Brittany prepared oxtail for Marita, and then at the changeover it's like she's like, oh yes, like like Brittany made me oxtail, and AJ being like, oxtail, and it's like apparently that's like it is again, it is interesting, because there is still that like dynamic, and I like
for sure.
there can be such like Britney's Caribbean, like there can be such like
Totally.
different exposure around like cooking and seasoning that can happen in like interracial dynamics, and I did wonder about that as we're being shown like Marita seasoning the chicken in a different episode, and like having that experience, and the adobo seasoning,
I know.
and then this oxtail that she like really never forgot, that seemed to like open her world. But again, like like that dynamic of like this black femme kind of like rocking this white woman's world with
No
like
one's
the cultural
surprised.
cuisine,
Right.
like, and I wonder if that was a little bit of AJ's reaction, like what,
Probably. It
like
felt
that's
like
what I
that.
felt.
Oh
That's what I
yeah.
felt like. Oh yeah, like really, like
Definitely.
so. Again, I mean, I guess talking a bit about their after, it seems like they have retained like a good friendship, and like
It
the
does.
reunion like kind of implies that too, and it seems present. So like at least this wasn't a transactional relationship, like
Yeah.
seemingly. Again, I don't know, like
We don't know these
I
people.
we don't know these people, but at least there was that, rather than like purely transactional and purely like this black femme rocking this white femme's world of possibility,
Totally.
in actions, in romance, in like like cultural cuisine,
Yeah. Yeah. It does seem like Brittany got something out of it, out of the friendship, just based on how they're still engaging on social media and at the reunion, like you're saying. So happy for that.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, definitely
A better feeling than the end of season 3
that
or
part.
episode 3, like
That
definitely
part.
a much better feeling.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. So, let's talk about the sex playlist. Okay. Come with me to Conspiracy Town because I am
Okay.
fully
Oh yeah, there are definitely conspiracies about this.
convinced that the producers put that shit on Megan and Haley's TV. I'm like, how else would that have happened?
Right.
I don't know. If anyone knows, please let us know.
I'm like Bluetooth. Like I'm like no, but like like Wi-Fi networks, but like that no, like
A
I'm sure.
private playlist
Right.
between only Dana and Mel showed up on Haley and Megan's TV
Yup.
when they couldn't even log into their own accounts.
Yup.
Whatever. All right. I'm leaving Conspiracy Town now.
I mean, by this point, had there been like a lot of conflict before? I mean, this was like the big kind of like rupture point was around this podcast, or not this podcast, this playlist.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, if you haven't subscribed already or given us a like, please do.
Please do. Yeah. I think we found out at the table changeover, but Haley was telling Marie, right? Is that her name? Yeah, Marie at the dinner where they were the givers of the ultimatums that
Mm,
so they had known already. Like Haley had already seen it
yeah.
by then. It just got brought forward to us at the changeover dinner. So fascinating. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and I mean all the like conflict, all the also implications in terms of like is that then what leads like not Dana, Megan and Haley to like have sex, because
It's
they
a good
figured that,
question.
Dana was already doing it. So at least that's some of what Mel says, like later, and not Mel, Megan says so many M's in this
I know. Mel,
series.
Megan, Marie.
So many. Um, that's at least what she says, right? Like
Yeah,
or what Dana also like accuses her of like, would you have even gone this far if you didn't think that that had happened? So
totally.
yeah.
The last thing on this episode, they framed AJ and Brittany were talking, and AJ was basically saying that she wants Brittany to take care of her and cook and clean the house. Did you register that?
I suppose not. I suppose I didn't.
Okay.
Maybe,
Yeah.
but I don't quite remember
Yeah.
that. I like kind of remember the haze of that conversation, but I don't quite like
Yeah.
remember.
I was just like, dang, not the mask falling into like patriarchal. I'm losing.
Yeah, I mean gender roles and
Gender
expectations
roles.
in the domestic setting,
Exactly.
and as we're talking about marriage.
Exactly. Amazon product placement. That was crazy.
Yeah, the Amazon product placement was disgusting. Absolutely foul. Hey, Carolyn from the Editing Future. So, something that Layla and I never got into, that I wanted to make sure that we got into in the episode, was alcohol use, since we had talked about that in the trailer episode. So, what was big and kind of the noticing is that alcohol use was like the center of socialization among the cast. Like there were constant like cocktail parties, constant meetings at bars, at, like the ambiance of these bars and everything. Like the ambiance was nice, but like, yes, like always in a bar setting, often these contestants like drinking together to connect or go on dates. And it's just kind of interesting because there are so many other ways to connect and socialize, or to build rapport, or like, even if it is like the focus is around dialogue, like there are other ways to do that. But I also think about a lot how, on reality TV, they often don't show people eating because of all the sound and stuff. But I think about that, like, as somebody who doesn't drink, I like, even before I drank, I always made sure that the food was good, but like centering around food pleasure is like really big for me, when I am having like more communication centered dates. But there are other ways to connect with folks, and it would just be nice to see that, or other ways to like, you know, uh, encourage dialogue among folks. But yeah, it's just a little unfortunate because it doesn't provide a lot of representation around the possibilities of dating and connection building, or community and connection building. I mean, shit, like I'm thinking right now about how Pilar is like a DJ. Like it could be even interesting like that, like seeing like Pilar DJ, for like the community and what that would be like, and maybe having like little pockets where they talk or something. um, could be interesting. But yes, we need more representation around that. And just wanted to point that out. Layla also mentioned too, noting that like that alcohol glasses had like long stems, and the non-alcoholic didn't have those long stems. So just a noticing of like that coding as well, and in terms of like coding for alcohol as we like look at it while still concealing the alcohol, but still all of these like spaces centering alcohol. So just some food for thought. Would love to know in the comments if you noticed anything or had any thoughts about this. I mean, in a nutshell, uh, I mean, they pretty much, like, as you texted me today or like yesterday, like most of them walked away engaged, right? So, um, Mel and Marie, Dana and Megan, AJ and Brittany. Bridget and Kyle, the only I'm
Pilar and
hoping
Haley.
Pilar and Haley, the only ones that did not walk away from that episode engaged were Ashley and Marita. Ashley
Yeah.
walked away, which is pretty, like, Joanna Garcia Swisher like notes that that's like pretty uncommon in like the Ultimatum as a whole. And I mean, there's a lot of drama that ensues. I think there's like, in the beginning of the episode, we talked about the disappointment. I think like the dynamics with Megan and Dana, and how that played out
Yeah.
with Haley, I think was really disappointing. Also, what Kyle noted of like we all seem to have really good trial marriage experiences, but then we didn't talk. And thinking about like, because we've talked about this podcast is like aftercare, right? There's no aftercare, like they like on in both like the change and the changeover, the choice and the changeover, right? Like when like there are these moments of like seeing the person's partner, like original partner or their trial, like their former trial partner, and like people just completely like avoiding making eye contact, like Megan and all of that, with Haley, and
That
previously like,
was wild.
yeah, when that had happened between um what's their face, Dana not looking at Megan.
I
So that was
know.
wild. That's definitely a big feel from like,
I was like, Megan, girl. Come on now.
and that switch did feel just like very jarring. It felt
Very.
very jarring, and I felt
Yeah,
for Haley, who like seemed to be really doubting herself, you know, like, and to also put that through Pilar of like, because like
totally.
there like seemed to be like genuine love, and that's one thing to process, but then to be completely like dumped by the
And
trial
said,
partner.
you,
Yeah.
I mean, again, we
Yeah.
don't know all the full details of what was
No,
said,
editing and whatnot.
but Megan is like, I was never in love with you. It's like, oh, first of all, I believe if this is actually what happened, that Megan could say that she was in love and then realize for whatever reason that it wasn't actually being in love. I do believe that can happen, and I think that in general, because queers do fall in love quickly and all these things, like, we could be a lot more thoughtful about throwing around that word. And I have a lot of forgiveness, like, in general, for being in this high pressure, high intensity
Environment.
situation being
Yeah.
filmed. And also, yeah, maybe think twice about it next time, because that has real implications, real
Mm,
feelings are involved, and it didn't need to be that hurtful.
mm. I'm taken, because we didn't specifically talk about it, but I'm taken back to also AJ in the beginning of the season, and how AJ like was pursuing like three people, but each of the three people thought that they were like the top of the list. And just
Mm,
thinking about more like in this case, like, yes, like the, I guess overall just like discernment and like just taking care and communication. With AJ's situation, I think that there could have been more communication. And again, we don't know what the editing was, but like if it was present or not, there could have been communication that was like, I am considering three people. Like we saw with Pilar, where there was like open communication between Bridget and Kyle of like,
that was cool.
yeah, no, it was, that was really cool. And like jokingly, like, hey, do you have any
Yeah.
idea between, nope, I do not. But yeah, more communication, more care, because it does have such an impact in this kind of container. But again, this is also a weird container, but also in your dating as in general, helpful to communicate and to consider what our communication also is,
Yeah.
and intimacy.
Yeah. Another takeaway, which we talked about at the beginning, but just feeling even more resonant with it now, is I don't know if I can do this again.
Mm,
Like, watch the show
yeah.
specifically, and because the way even Joanna Garcia Swisher in the reunion, when she was like, I hope you can walk away with some healing feelings or feeling more healed. And I
Mm,
just simply did not
mm,
feel that way. There
mm,
was nothing healing about it. It was
mm,
very chaotic. There was no care for the transitions. There was no aftercare, as we're saying, for what we witnessed and how jarring that could have been for us as witnesses. And just going back, people were literally calling a mental health crisis helpline because of the first season of this show. And
mm,
I fully felt and can see how that was true, kind of watching it in this context and really digging in with you and being very attentive to all of the
mm.
details that were happening in the show.
And even thinking about, because we have, like, like we have tried to be really intentional about how we're talking about these folks and stuff, and so thinking about, you're gonna walk away with healing when we're seeing videos of Pilar like being upset about different people's reactions. I mean, the same way, like Mel is also getting a lot on social media. Like there is just, oh, and again, Love Island USA has also been like a hot mess of all of that. And I really, so like healing, like, yes, like, I don't know, like, as we have talked about, there are so many more possibilities that could actually be healing on these like shows or in these kind of containers. And then there is the fact that then they will be like thrown to the wolves of social media, and like
Right.
a lot of people like speculating or having a lot of judgments and like things like that that can be really harmful. So I don't even know how healing it really is. So like the fact that you're like, yeah, like I can't do this again. Like I really like, yeah. But a thought that I have had while I'm recording here, and this goes back to desperation, which we talked about in the
I
trailer.
was thinking about
Um,
this.
if we are saying that we don't want to do this again and that we don't know that there should be this show, this network could also take it of like they don't want any of this. They don't want any of the, like, in this, especially in this like fucking anti LGBTQ two spirit plus like uh QIA to Spirit Plus, like like context, like they will take that and be like, they want nothing. Like Disney did that, I think, with like Elemental, which had like like queer storyline, and they didn't promote the movie, and then and the same with Luca, and we're like, oh, people don't want this, right? And it's like versus like actually. I had that meme that was like, I hope you're happy for nothing. And it's like, like the litmus test around whether or not queer media should be available. Like just thinking about, I like having like I remember my friend like Erin Brown like telling somebody like, put it on in the background for season 1, right? Because it will tell the network that we like want more of this. But like,
Hmm.
so again, holding like, I want more queer representation, especially centering like Black queer folk, Black trans folk,
Absolutely.
trans people of color, like, and queer people of color. Like that's really like what I desire, and in all this healthy container way. But yes, like we could say we don't want this, and then the network is like, well, you will get none of it, like
Yeah.
none of it will be available.
Yeah. And then
But
that
also fuck these
goes,
networks too, like I'm so here
that
for,
part, exactly.
like, I have watched like Pop the Balloon shows of like, which are so messy, but like of like Black queer creators, like there are things that people are doing on kind of like an indie scale, to try to give us
That's,
a bit more representation, albeit messy as well. But what
yeah.
were you gonna say?
No, that's just where my brain went as well. Like,
Mm,
I think we are. I feel we've made very clear just throughout us talking that
mm,
it's not that we don't want queer representation.
yeah.
We want it to feel like it actually represents us and our values, and that it cares about us as
Mm,
people, as humans, and granted, big media in general. This is also a critique of big media in general, not just queer media, but
No.
it does trickle down to queer media. And what you're saying about, well, what if they just don't make any more? Well,
Right.
then, yeah, we do have to go to, and hopefully that would leave more of space for small produced, small time, less big media. And ultimately, are we talking about divesting from big media as a whole? I mean, that's a big question, but I think we are.
We
Like,
are.
yeah.
I mean, that has 100% been
Yeah.
my, like, I knew I was going to say that on this, like, podcast. Like, I was, like, my vision is ultimately not to have, like, necessarily these big industry, like, because it is this, because it's messy. Love Island USA, like, there's all this shit, like, these producers are probably Zionists, and they keep putting these Zionists on the show.
1000%.
Like, and the narrative spinning, it's just like a mess, This season is an absolute mess and a dumpster fire. So like I know like it is like so here it is.
It came.
it I'll anyway, my nasty brain, hello, welcome. Pleasure. But like in this time, like we do need to like be supporting like
Exactly.
smaller indie creators. I am so here, like the magic of like crowdfunding in terms of like creating like projects that like mainstream media does not want to put out, but being able to do so in a way that like actually supports people. Shout out to my friend B Steadwell, Black queer creator who has made beautiful music videos, or shout out to Leah in the Dominican Republic making beautiful music videos. Like it's just like we just like we need to support each other to get like the heart of like what would actually be nourishing, not what is the agenda of like these big conglomerates. It's interesting. I'm thinking about astrologically. So Los Angeles is in its Saturn return. And something I have thought about with that is like, is that city actually going to return to its like Black and Indigenous roots, which also include its creative Black and Indigenous roots, and reclaiming that as Hollywood is like literally
Oh yeah.
burning and becoming less relevant, So that's where I'm at. Support your small creators, like your local creators, so we can actually see what we crave, and more possibility.
Absolutely. It's the only way.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like it is nice to see representation in big media that feels meaningful and special and soft and caring. And also at the end of the day, what we're really talking about is supporting creators that look like us, that talk like us, that
Mm-hmm.
have values like us. And even Tiff Durr in her video talking about Joanna Garcia Swisher was like, what do y'all want? You want the key grip? You want the camera person? You want the director? You want them all to be gay? And I was like, kinda.
Yes. I mean, the whole process
Kinda.
could be better, right?
Yeah.
Like people could be getting paid better. Like there's such a wealth gap in like the entertainment industry and who is paid, and like there could be so much more equity, and that is like revolution and liberation in practice, is like an anti-capitalism in practice, is to like carry these values like everywhere, like so yes, it does come down to literally all of it as much as we can while still under these systems, but also moving beyond these systems. But yes, that is the vision, that is the manifestation, the
Absolutely.
manifestation.
Cheers to that. I hope everyone listening can be really gentle with themselves moving forward, can, yeah, find joy in other media that actually feels joyful and queer and black and POC and just everything that is we found to be the void in this big
Hmm.
media system. And yeah, just keep supporting your small creators, keep supporting each other, the folks in your life and your community. And yeah, just sending lots of
And
love.
and with that, where can they support you?
Yes, you can support me by either signing up for my Patreon, which is patreon.com/Layla Maclid. I'm also, you can tip me if you enjoyed listening on Cash App, which is $Layla Rhoda. We'll put all this in the show notes too for
And
spelling.
on screen. I'll put it
And
on
on
screen
screen.
too.
Wow.
Yeah. I know.
And also my Venmo, which is @Layla Rhoda as well.
Amazing. And you can sustain Recovery for the Revolution through patreon.com/recovery for the revolution. Monthly contributions would be game changing for the reach of this work. And you can tip me at Venmo at Recovery for the Revolution and Cash App at Recovery, $Recovery Coin. Well, y'all, be gentle. Thank you for being on this journey for us. Like, let us know with us. Like, thank you. Let us know in the comments how everything is sitting with you. And yeah, wishing you a lot of gentleness. Thank you for listening.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.